we promote or explain the idea of geotourism, which is tourism based on geographical character. And by geographical character, we're talking about everything that goes in to what makes a place a place. It's not only just the environment, but it's also the architecture, the history, the cuisine, the cultural landscapes, and so on. And the definition of geotourism is tourism that sustains or enhances geographical character. And in the case of Norway, where I think there's a great opportunity, particularly as people are beginning to leave the countryside and there's a problem that the cultural landscapes may be lost, here's a case where geotourism could enhance, because with support from tourist dollars, it may be possible to keep small farms going, to develop, not only resurrect traditional cuisines, but develop new ones that are specific to the different valleys and fjords of Norway. And that's what good geotourism is all about. It's distinctiveness of place, so that one place is different from another, and you always have a different travel experience. And more importantly, the world remains a diverse place. In the case of Norway, geotourism, I think, is a perfect fit, because for one thing, the destination is totally suited to it. The reason you come to Norway is not to sit on a sandy beach and go swimming. It's to experience the beautiful scenery and maybe a really chilly experience of swimming, but it is also to experience Norwegian culture and Norwegian food and get a sense of Norwegian history. And these are all extremely appealing and enriching forms of travel. And on top of that, because Norway is, by world standards, an expensive destination, it's going to appeal to tourists that can afford it, and particularly educated tourists who are themselves interested in having a beneficial impact on the destination that they visit. So it's a pretty easy answer, I think, for Norway. This is exactly the right kind of tourism for this country. Tourism can make a difference for industries like fishing or small agriculture that are in danger of disappearing. And one of the ways to do that is through the heritage of the industry itself. In the case of fisheries here in Norway, or for that matter, small farms, tourism can help, and it can bring in an extra stream of money. But there's an additional challenge, and that is that for the place to remain really authentic and something more than just a museum of an industry that once was, it's important still to focus on fishing. And if fishing is not working in the way we are accustomed, then is there a different way that it can work? Certainly tourism can bring in a higher price for some food items, whether it's fishing or farming. But if the community depends on nothing but tourism, it loses a sense of authenticity, and it also loses economic viability. First thing would be to avoid mistakes. And mistakes would be relying too much on what I would call day trip or cruise tourism, meaning tourism where people get off the boat, spend relatively little time in the countryside, and get right back on again. It's much better when you can get off the boat as you can with the Coastal Voyager and spend a day or two in the countryside, staying overnight, getting a feel for what it's like there, and then getting on the boat and going further up or down the coast. Another concern, I think, is to be sure that the wonderful aesthetics that are the case right now are maintained. One of the big mistakes made in many destinations around the world, and certainly in many parts of my own country, is too many big, ugly billboards on highways and in cities. I'm a little worried about possibly the future of tourism here, if there's not some care taken to what type of tourism it is. In other words, not just going by the sheer numbers of tourists, which is a dangerous way to measure success in tourism, but rather to the impact of each tourist. How much do they spend? Where do they spend it? And what is it like to have them here in the country? Is it a pleasant experience or an unpleasant one? And of course, what one hopes for is the best possible experience both for the visitor and for the people that live in the place that's being visited. The power of tourism is enormous, and it can do a lot of harm, and I believe it can do a lot of good. And because it is growing so fast, one or the other is going to happen in almost any place worth visiting. So the challenge today is to make sure it's the good things that happen and not the bad. But this is both one of the largest industries on Earth, one of the fastest growing on Earth, and one of the most all-pervasive, because wherever tourists appear, things happen. Real estate changes, economies change, and even the face of the Earth changes. You can see it in satellite pictures of coastlines and attractive mountain areas. And so it is a force to be reckoned with. Every country needs to reckon with it, and we need to learn a lot fast about how to do it in the best possible way. But when it is done well, it has the power to protect places that might otherwise disappear. Ecotourism has already protected species that might otherwise disappear. And when it takes the holistic approach of what we call geotourism, with all of geographical character involved, it can protect and preserve diversity on an increasingly small planet where globalization tends to make a lot of places look the same.